You look around and wonder why the rich keep getting richer while you claw for crumbs. No matter how hard you grind, you're chained to bills, debts, and survival mode. It feels unfair. Here's the part most people are afraid to say out loud. Money doesn't answer to fairness. Money answers to power. And power is never handed over. It's taken. That's why you stay broke. You're still playing by posted rules, waiting your turn, hoping someone notices your effort and rewards it. The wealthy don't wait, and they don't hope. They architect outcomes. They bend people, systems, and even perception to serve their ends. If you don't understand the cold Machiavellian logic behind that game, you're not a player. You're prey. You become labor for someone else's empire. What I'm about to share isn't motivational fluff. It isn't the bedtime story of work harder, save more, and everything will be fine. This is dangerous knowledge, the kind that gets whispered behind closed doors because it makes you unpredictable. It makes you hard to corner. If you master it, mediocrity stops being an option. Most people think wealth flows from intelligence, luck, or talent. Nice illusions. If that were true, geniuses wouldn't die broke, and the hardest workers wouldn't drown in payments. Wealth is not a birth trait. It's a method, a strategy, the kind Machiavelli would recognize. Unsentimental, tactical, and focused on leverage, not virtue. Machiavelli observed that people will forgive almost anything before they forgive a threat to their property. Translate that to today. Money is more than math. It is survival, status, and control. Those who command it, command behavior. Those who don't, obey. Start here. Money is not neutral. It is a weapon. In the hands of the timid, it slips away. In the hands of the disciplined and ruthless, it multiplies. But that weapon responds only to those willing to drop naive fantasies. Your first move is identity demolition. Stop thinking like a victim of circumstances. Start thinking like a strategist. Watch before you speak. Study before you react. Most people are blind. They're predictable. They're emotional. They don't realize they're being maneuvered in the money game. The second you switch from reacting to observing, you begin to see how capital is actually built. Look at the average man. He works hard. He saves pennies. He plays fair. His life is a cage, and his labor fattens someone else's balance sheet. Why? Because he worships effort instead of leverage. He clings to fairness instead of influence. He trusts appearances instead of power. That blindness keeps him poor. Here's the first principle. Weaponize silence. Most people chase wealth by talking, pleading, proving themselves. They broadcast desperation like a bad odor. Silence is different. Silence is pressure. It makes the other side reveal themselves. In negotiations, deals, and open doors, the person who holds silence forces the room to bend. People hate quiet. They rush to fill it, often with concessions, secrets, and weaknesses. The wealthy understand this. That is why they sit calm while everyone else scrambles for attention. They do not chase. They let others spill information, then strike with precision. Silence moves you from prey to predator. But silence alone is not enough. If your reactions are predictable, you are still under someone else's thumb. Most faces leak fear, greed, and insecurity like a radio signal. Predators detect it instantly. That is how the wealthy steer markets, employees, and even friends. They read reflexes faster than the average mind can think. To stop losing, you must become unreadable, a ghost in plain sight. No one can sense your next move. Strip away the tells. Master stillness. When you remove emotional cues, you stop being a piece on someone else's board and become the hand that moves the pieces. Consider what that means in practice. A person who cannot be read cannot be forecast. A person who cannot be forecast cannot be controlled. That person is dangerous. Ads miss them. Trends fail to trap them. They save when others splurge, attack when others hesitate, and withdraw when the crowd rushes in. This is how empires are built. Not by running with the herd, but by standing above it, watching, waiting, and acting with accuracy. Here is the pivot you must make clear to yourself. Every time you act from raw emotion, every time fear or greed jerks the wheel, you surrender power. And whenever you drop power, someone richer gets stronger. Money is always moving. If it slips from your hand, it arms another player. Which brings us to the next rule: the predator's patience. Average people act on impulse. They chase trends, gamble on shine, and sprint toward quick money. Their impatience feeds those who know how to wait. The affluent move with restraint. They plan, they stalk, they conserve energy like a lion in tall grass. They wait for the perfect break. When fear rattles the crowd, then they strike. That patience is why they buy when others panic, hold when others dump, and expand while competitors retreat. Treat patience like a weapon, and you stop torching cash on impulsive bets. You start capturing the opportunities everyone else overlooks. Patience demands discipline. Discipline is where most people fail. They want comfort. They want easy. They crave the dopamine of spending instead of the cold satisfaction of control. That is why those who master silence, patience, and unreadability climb, while everyone else stays chained to a paycheck. Machiavellian discipline is not about denial for its own sake. It is about preserving optionality until the odds tilt in your favor. Here is the darker truth. Most people will never break out. They are too emotional, too predictable, too blind to the game. They will live as targets. You do not have to join them. If you apply these principles with seriousness, strip away illusions, weaponize silence, become unreadable, and practice the predator's patience, you stop bleeding leverage. You begin to accumulate it. Push deeper, and you see a final shift in mindset. Wealth is rarely earned in the moral sense people imagine. It is seized. It is taken by those who position themselves where value must flow, then claim it with timing, leverage, and control. You have seen the first cracks in the illusion. Silence bends people. Unreadability shields you. Patience turns panic into timing. But if you stop there, you have only built armor. Money is not only about defense. It is about turning other people into your engine. That is where the real game begins. Most people think wealth is earned by effort. They imagine the rich work harder or are simply smarter. That is the surface. Real wealth is built by position. You stand where the river of other people's effort must pass through you. Think about your job. You grind, you sweat. Your paycheck is a slice of what you create. The rest flows upward to the person above you. Why? Because position beats exertion. They do not need to work more hours. They need you to. That is leverage. Machiavelli wrote that people are fickle and easy to sway, yet hard to keep tied to a belief. In money terms, human effort and loyalty are unstable. Systems are not. If you control the system, instability stops mattering. Wages rotate, moods swing, employees churn, and you still capture value. That is why a landlord grows wealthy while hundreds of tenants pay forever. That is why a disciplined investor compounds while thousands gamble and bleed. That is why a corporation extracts billions from millions of customers who complain but keep buying. Here is the cold part. Most people never consider leverage. They think in terms of income, not infrastructure. They sell time. They sell energy. In doing so, they sell life itself. Hours do not compound. Systems do. The players who master leverage stop trading hours for dollars and start trading designs for outcomes. They build toll booths that sit on the road everyone travels. They own distribution instead of chasing attention. They turn code, capital, and people into force multipliers that work while they sleep. This is the shift. You stop acting like labor. You start behaving like the hunter who lays traps. You build the choke points. You set the defaults that others accept without thinking. You create the rules that channel effort through your structure. When the current moves, it moves through you. Leverage can still crumble if you lack control. Crowds are volatile. Tastes shift. Loyalties wobble. Trends turn overnight. If you do not anchor them, you lose the steering wheel. That is why you must master the law of narrative. Money rarely flows to the best product or the hardest worker. It flows to the best story. Humans are not calculators. We chase belief more than logic. Whoever shapes the story shapes the stream of cash. That is how religions build empires, how brands turn into cults, how politicians convert words into millions. They command the lens through which the crowd sees reality. Here is the uncomfortable secret. A story does not need to be correct. It only needs to be believed. Once your frame is accepted, people hand you their money, their loyalty, their effort, sometimes even their safety. Average minds resist this. They cling to the faith that truth and fairness rule the world. Look around. Loud repetition hardens fiction into fact. Curated appearances solidify into reality. Those who refuse to craft narratives because it feels manipulative stay broke. They do not grasp that capital follows confidence, not the raw truth of the market. Silence, unreadability, patience, leverage, storytelling. See the pattern. Each principle converts human weakness into your advantage. Each step pulls you out of the herd and closer to the circle of hunters. Now face the darker cost. Wealth demands sacrifice, not blood, but comfort. The predator's path is lonely. You cannot indulge every impulse, distraction, or craving. That hunger for constant comfort is what keeps most people soft. The wealthy are not soft. Luxury may surround them, but discipline sits underneath. They govern themselves before they govern others. Machiavelli warned that a ruler must at times move against mercy, against reputation, even against his own nature to preserve power. If you intend to rise from scarcity, learn the same lesson in modern form. Trade the illusion of moral neatness for the reality of control. Guard your narrative, set the frame, and make belief do the lifting. Here is why you stay broke. You cling to comfort, fairness, and appearances. The wealthy do not. They accept discomfort when it serves them. They bend morality when it delivers results. They engineer appearances when it protects position. That flexibility is why they rise while others sink. Remember the shadow side of every rule. Silence can harden into isolation. Unreadability can drift into paranoia. Patience can rot into stagnation. Leverage can implode without discipline. Storytelling can backfire if exposed. The rich keep their poise because they learn to walk the blade. They balance ruthlessness with control and stay one move ahead of collapse. While you assume wealth means working harder, they move invisibly. They pull strings. They set traps you never see. By the time you react, the outcome is already locked. It does not have to be that way for you. Stay on this path. You have started ripping the veil. You are getting harder, colder, more strategic. Accept the predator's mindset, and you will see the truth. Money does not flow to the deserving. It flows to the taker. Seizure is quiet. It is calculated. It moves like a ghost. That is the direction you are heading. The final evolution of your frame. Now you can feel the shift. The world looks different. You hear people talk, beg, shop, react, and all you see is weakness. They do not realize how they are being drained, harvested, and steered. You do. You have stepped out of the herd. To truly pass them, you must go beyond silence, unreadability, patience, leverage, and narrative. Those are foundations. Transformation happens when you sharpen them into weapons and use them without hesitation. Wealth is conflict, not a fair contest, not a moral audition. In conflict, hesitation is lethal. Go deeper. There is a reason the poor cling to jobs while the rich build empires. It is more than leverage. It is the law of substitution. The weak substitute labor for power. They think more effort equals more money. Hard work becomes the currency of the naive. The rich substitute differently. They trade ideas for labor, influence for action, perception for reality. Picture it. One person digs a trench all day and collects a wage. Another recruits 10 people to dig 10 trenches and earns 10 times more without touching a shovel. Who is smarter? The one who sweats, or the one who substitutes structure for sweat? The empire builder replaces personal effort with a design that scales. He swaps his hours for coordination, his presence for systems, his voice for a story that mobilizes others. That is the pivot from worker to ruler. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely only on their own strength. Use others whenever possible. Wealth obeys the same rule. If you keep swapping hours for dollars, poverty becomes permanent. If you swap perception for value, ideas for labor, and other people's energy for your upside, the current tilts in your favor without end. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The wealthy do not work harder. They make others work harder on their behalf. Substitution alone is weak without another blade. Enter the law of illusion. People rarely buy what a thing is. They buy what they believe it is. That is why a diamond, chemically a rock, commands a fortune. Why cloth becomes luxury in the right showroom. Why paper money, worthless by itself, carries the will of nations. Capital follows belief. The masters of belief become masters of wealth. They do not sell reality. They sell the story wrapped around it. That is why some sell get-rich systems without being rich and still profit. Entire industries grow fat by manufacturing desire for things no one truly needs. Reject illusion on moral grounds and you lose by design. The world does not pay out for honesty alone. It pays for command of appearance. Machiavelli put it simply, everyone sees what you seem to be. Few know what you are. Appearance is power. Illusion is currency. Whoever controls them, controls the flow. Listen closely. This is one of the most dangerous principles. The law of extraction. The word makes most people flinch. They imagine cruelty. In its pure form, extraction means locating neglected value and pulling it out. The rich scan for gaps, weak points, and mispriced moments, then claim them first. This does not always mean exploiting people head-on. It means exploiting timing, fear, and inefficiency. It means spotting waste and converting it into fuel. Consider fear. When markets crack, average players panic and sell at a loss. The predator extracts value by buying cheap and compounding while others bleed. Consider attention. Billions waste hours scrolling. The predator captures that attention with a narrative, converts it through a product, and turns distraction into revenue. Extraction is not inherently vicious. It is reality. If you do not extract, you will be extracted. The reason you stay poor is not that others are evil. It is that you lack the cold eye required to see opportunity inside other people's weaknesses and the discipline to act before anyone else. Extraction without control is a loaded gun, which brings us to the rule of secrecy. The weak believe oversharing builds trust. They spill plans, they narrate their feelings, they telegraph boundaries. In doing so, they torch their leverage. The powerful keep things sealed. They disclose on purpose and in sequence, just enough to spark curiosity, desire, or dependency, never enough to be mapped. Picture a negotiation. The average player rushes to state price, limits, and needs. The predator holds. He listens. He measures. When he finally speaks, the other side is already boxed in. Secrecy breeds mystery. Mystery breeds authority. Authority attracts capital. This is why the richest often appear quiet, distant, hard to read. They are not hiding out of fear. They are hiding because exposure is a liability. What others call transparency, they recognize as a surrender of options. Now connect the circuitry. Silence shapes behavior. Unreadability shields you. Patience turns panic into timing. Leverage converts people into engines. Narrative directs belief. Substitution frees you from wage slavery. Illusion multiplies value from nearly nothing. Extraction converts waste into income. Secrecy protects the position that sustains all of it. None of these are tricks. They are weapons. Dark, cold, precise, forged in centuries of power. When you wield them, you stop being a victim of the money game. You become the game that demands the final shift. Identity. Most live and die as prey. Emotional. Predictable. Shackled to hours, paychecks, and a fantasy of fairness. Step onto this path and you stop resembling them. You become the watcher, the strategist, a ghost moving through markets. Imagine it. While others stumble blind, you walk with X-ray vision. You read tells. You see impulse before it fires. You register weakness without judgment. You do not join the noise. You sit. You wait. You move only when the result is already loaded in your favor. That is what it means to be unreadable. That is what it means to be hard to touch. That is what it means to be difficult to stop. You are no longer chasing wealth. You stand where wealth must pass and let it find you. Once you taste that level of control, you do not return to the old frame. You are no longer one of them. You have crossed into something higher, shielded, and out of reach. The question now is execution. How do you live this philosophy instead of just nodding at it? We move from theory to habits that turn these laws into armor, tools, and territory you control. You already carry the principles: silence, unreadability, patience, leverage, narrative, substitution, illusion, extraction, secrecy. Stop treating them like vocabulary. Treat them like knives you keep concealed. Wealth is not built in heroic moments. It is built in small, daily choices where most people slip. That is where you separate. That is where you become something else. In conversation, most people talk to fill air, to prove worth, to feel seen. You know better. Words are a currency. Currency should be invested. Sit across from anyone, friend, colleague, potential partner, and practice calibrated quiet. Let them speak. Let them reveal. You are not reacting. You are studying. Every hesitation, contradiction, and emotional leak becomes data. Over time, you will see how people beg to fill the silence you create. They hand you information, influence, even loyalty, just to relieve discomfort. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. Use questions that open space, then hold it. Count to 3 before you answer. Control pacing. Pace is power. In negotiation, amateurs think the job is to push their point. They argue, posture, and try to win rounds. A negotiation is a disguised battlefield. Composure beats frenzy. Your unpredictability is the shield that stops the other side from mapping you. Do not signal excitement. Do not telegraph fear. Do not reveal constraints. Wait. Let them outline their price, their limits, their timeline. Track their tells and anchor them with their own words. Then move when the clock favors you. Replace your silence with their panic. Swap their urgency for your terms. Keep the reveal staged and partial until the deal tilts your way. By the time they notice they have conceded more than they planned, the structure is already locked. In relationships, money is more than finance. It is social capital. Influence is a currency you can trade, compound, and weaponize. Most people burn theirs by being too available, too emotional, too readable. You will not. You apply secrecy. You do not grant full access. You hold a little distance and a little mystery. You reveal a slice of yourself, never the whole picture. People crave what they cannot fully grasp, so controlled scarcity creates value. They pursue you. They invest in you. They respect your time because it is not free. This is not manipulation. It is architecture. You are designing magnetism so wealth, in every form, gravitates to you. In business, This is where Machiavellian rules shine. Many companies fail because they try to sell plain reality. Features, logic, sweat. Predators sell belief. They sell the narrative. They build an appearance that carries status and meaning. Desire is manufactured where none existed. Think of the largest empires. Premium brands, command lines, and premiums because the story is potent. The product may be good, but the myth makes it irresistible. That is the law of illusion fused with the law of story. If you plan to build wealth, do not sell what a thing is. Sell what it means. Do not sell food. Sell identity at the table. Do not sell clothing. Sell rank in the tribe. Do not sell a course. Sell the promise of transformation. People are not buying objects. They are buying the story they get to tell about themselves when they own the object. In conflict, the weak waste energy on every skirmish. They argue, defend, and prove. Power leaks out with every reaction. The predator does not fight every fight. The predator selects, waits, and strikes only when the win is loaded. That is the patience rule in battle. When conflict arrives, you do not rush. You watch. You track patterns. You let the opponent expose their plan, burn their fuel, and show their blind spots. When they are soft, you move with speed, clarity, and finality. That is why the wealthy expand during downturns. They buy when others are afraid. They advance while the crowd retreats. Energy is reserved for decisive engagements that feed the empire, not petty wars that feed the ego. Slowly, without fanfare, you evolve. While others chase comfort, you choose discipline. While they overshare, you remain unreadable. While they panic, you wait. While they grind endlessly, you build leverage. While they speak plain truth and get ignored, you craft perception and get paid. You are no longer one of them. You have risen to something sharper. This is the final evolution. Unreadable, hard to touch, difficult to stop. A ghost moving through the economy. You do not broadcast your wins. You do not beg for recognition. You move in quiet. You build in quiet. You stockpile power until one day the crowd looks up and realizes you are no longer standing among them. You have cleared the field. Machiavelli would call it the path of a ruler, one not by goodwill or fairness, but by control, design, and inevitability. The Stoics would call it detachment, freedom from the whip of impulse. I call it the predator's mind, a mind that bends wealth, power, and people to its direction. Most will never see it. They will stay blind, reactive, edible. You, on the other hand, have crossed the threshold. You step deeper into the private room. Now the choice sits in front of you. Let these words pass and drift back to old habits, or mark this as the beginning. Start applying the laws daily. Stop reacting and start calculating. Stop working for money and start shaping money to work for you. If you are ready to keep going, to hone your focus, to master power and become hard to move, here is your directive. Stay close. Treat this as the continuation of your transformation. The path gets darker as it gets more accurate. Once you cross that line, returning to the old frame is not an option. So ask yourself a clean question. Are you ready to stop living as prey and start operating as the hunter?